Hello YouTube and newsletter subscribers, this is Terrell from Terrell03.com. Today is December 29th, 2016. This is the Black Star Update Report connected to Volume 52, the final volume of 2016 newsletter. And there was some mention that the volume was too high. Before that it was too low. The settings are somewhere in the middle. Let me know in the description box if it seems too loud or too low, and I will try to get that right for you. Seismic and volcanic indicators all say Earth is moving through the final Earth change lull period for the 2016 Earth orbit cycle relative to the Black Star position in the Libra constellation relative to the Sun between Saturn and Jupiter. And when you look at this is year over year for week 46, which ended last weekend. And if you look at this week versus the same week in 2014 for week 46. Remember that came from November the 16th through the 22nd in 2016, and this is ending just on December the 14th now. And the reason for this is the Black Star is moving left in the orbit diagram. The new cycle begins almost 2 weeks later each year, and that's why you see the discrepancy in the dates relative to the week number that we're in right now. These values and these values are almost the same. There's still quite a bit of activity. This 55 value is high, but there is an explanation for that. It's going to be similar to what you heard last week. It's the magma plume formation in the Pacific Ocean that's causing it. If you wonder why I call the small magnitude earthquakes, these 2.5 to 4 magnitudes, the key indicator quakes, these guys tell the story a lot of the time. And this is the case for right now. You see the high value, 303, it's marked right there. Backside alignment, this is your high value. You can see what you have before, you can see what you have after. This is the peak right here. You have to go up pretty far to find a value higher than 300. And I still haven't found one. This is it right here. This is whenever the Earth core was at its hottest. You can see the similar situation right here with the 49 that's in the middle of these 20s right here. And then the 6 magnitude earthquakes, when you look at the weeks before and after, you see this is the high value. And then we had the 7s right around the backside alignment, and these right here, I mean, if we'd have had one more 7 in week 40 week 43 there, then we would have done very similar to what we got last year right here. And now there's a better understanding of what was going on last year with all these quake events. This is the reverberation going back and forth in the Pacific Ocean Ring of Fire. That from the enlarging magma plume formation. That is, once you wrap your head around what's going on in the Pacific Ocean with that magma plume formation, the magma plume corridors that have been created within the buoyancy barriers, when you get that part down in your head, the rest of the stuff, as far as the Earth changes, makes a lot more sense. And then you can understand why you're not seeing precursor quakes before some of the even big magnitude earthquakes. 7.7 we had in South America had no precursor quakes because what happened was the magma plume formation underneath there, the horn, had decompressed. It was laying down. Then here comes the wave. Pushes through. That magma plume, that horn formation, stands up quickly. It shifts the magma on top that's heavier because the lightweight nature of the decompressed magma that's contained within the buoyancy barrier, and that causes something that's ready to move. And so the pressure had built up in that area, bam, it was ready to be released. The push from underneath gave it the nudge that it needed in 7.7 right during the lull period. Then so this high activity that you see over here for the large magnitude earthquakes, particularly these 5 magnitude earthquakes, if you've been hearing me making these reports, this number is up because of the Pacific Ocean Ring of Fire. And those horn formations that are bouncing up and down as these magma plume waves go from the termination end, which is in Alaska and Mexico, for the northern wave and the southern wave respectively. Then it whenever it reaches this pressure, reaches the end, the terminating end, then it reverts, it starts rebounding. It rebounds backwards, just like water in your pool. Rebounds backwards back to Indonesia, where it meets the wave from the southern corridor. So that energy is going to be dissipated. It's still reverberating because of the structure of those buoyancy barriers. It's within this, just imagine as a gigantic tube that's being created by the buoyancy barriers, and that magma is rushing. The pressure is rushing back and forth. And that's what's got these numbers, these values here high. They are going to settle down, and these values are going to more resemble the 2.54 magnitudes. Look how low they are. We're almost sub 200. With 55.5s, that's not normal. That is going to be difficult to reproduce. This such a high 5 value, especially with 5 6s. You don't get 5 6s in a 7-day period going up the chart. You can see we got it near the backside alignment here for 2014. But finding that many in a single week, this is a jolt value. It showed up 2 years in a row in week 5 of the cycle. But you don't find many 5 values like this. This is because of that reverberating activity. Then, so Earth is orbiting away from the black star, natural movement around the sun. We can show you that, how that works. So here's the Libra constellation. The black star is in the Libra constellation. It's just below the ecliptic plane, so it's going to be down in this area. And it's inside of Jupiter orbit. I feel that it's just about where this cursor is, right here. And it's moving in prograde fashion, so it's moving this way. We've tracked it through the Leo constellation in 2000. Well, it was on this side, 2010, 11, and 12. When Fukushima happened, then it was, the black star was over in this area. Guerrero happens over here. Keep on going by. Our near side alignment quake events continue, and then now we've left Virgo, and now we're into the Libra constellation, being that we have moved beyond April the 21st, and so now we're in April 25th. With the last year, that looks like it should have been May the 7th. Jupiter's going to look like it's going to play a role. And that's explained in the report. When Jupiter was behind the sun relative to the black star, these backside alignment quake events that were happening over in this area when the Earth was passing, well, let's turn it around a little bit because we were still in Virgo. They were happening around this area. Jupiter was still on back orbit. These events were happening late. It looks like Jupiter's going to be the culprit in this. That was pointed out by geophysicists, and my hat's off for that. So he and I were thinking kind of along the same lines. Now Jupiter, that was since January 5th, 2014, reached the 90-degree position, and now it's in near orbit relative to the black star, and it is, look, it's in Libra. I'm sorry, it's in Virgo, and it's pushing 30 degrees per year this way. So it's converged, it's coming closer to the black star. Therefore, the magnetic portal connection between Jupiter and the black star is shortening. The internal conduits are wanting to switch at each reconnection over to active state, filling Jupiter, the largest planet in our solar system, with added doses of electromagnetism. Jupiter should be becoming brighter in the sky, and we're going to get a good view of that once we swing on around in orbit, and it's in our midnight sky. That's going to be happening later in next year. It's going to be like April is going to be perfect for Jupiter coming in. It's going to be converging on black star position, and then it's going to appear very bright in the sky for sure. And then I do believe that Jupiter is going to be a culprit in that, December the 29th. Just why I'm here, kind of looking for planetary alignments that affect solar system harmonics that can add to the potential for creating the earthquakes. That 90-degree angle that you see right there with Jupiter. And if you're listening to Frank Hagerbeats, then he is and we just passed behind the sun relative to Saturn too. So just wanted to kind of throw that in there while I'm looking, while we're all looking at the solar system, where Earth is in the solar system on December the 29th. So we're going to, black star is straight beyond us in the Libra constellation. You can see we're not close to that 90-degree angle yet, and we are going to reach that when we get to about this position. And if you look, you're going to see we're in the second week of February. It's whenever we should have the lowest number. We should see sub 200 values for the 5 magnitude earthquakes, sub 200 values for the 2.5 to 4 magnitude earthquakes right here. By then, the reverberation in the magma plume corridors going around the northern and southern sides of the Pacific Ocean Ring of Fire, that activity should have ceased by then. Then the earth change uptick period is going to begin. Indonesia is going to be kicking off. We're going to head off this way. In the solar system, magnetic portal connection between the black star and the Earth will shorten rapidly as we're moving towards it. The peak period will be the end of April, whenever it's at its shortest. New volcanic eruption events will number 7, 8, and 9 over in this area, and our seismic activity will reach a peak in the last week of April, moving into the first week of May. And it looks like Jupiter is going to play a role in that. It could be that the near side alignment event that is predicted by the binary star magnetic repulsion modeling is predicted for May the 2nd at this time. It could be that it's rolled back and it happens earlier, like the Vanuatu quake from this year. And we'll see. We'll just have to watch and see as we're moving through. And then that's according to the binary star magnetic repulsion model. That one says the black star has been slowing down as it's approaching the sun because of the repulsion between these two binary stars with mismatched polarity. That explains why we've had a 188-day cycle for the 2004 through 2015. That is a 12-degree move left in the orbit diagram on average every single year. And then we just had a 3-degree move last year, and that's becoming more concerning to me because if Jupiter's the culprit, then it could be my May 7th date was right, but it was messed with by the solar system harmonics created by the configuration of the planets. So we have to save space in our predictive modeling procedure for those kind of variables moving forward. Make sure that you look at Jason's work that's in the featured section down here, our project physicist, one of the physicists. He's got some pretty good examples, good diagrams and things to help people to understand how our solar system is much like a molecule with the orbiting satellites, like being the electrons. And it's some fascinating stuff. I think that Jason is getting quite the following, as a matter of fact. Bonnie is one in particular that likes to ship things his way and to pick his brain a little bit. Okay, so we're moving away from the black star until February, about the end of the second week of February, and then the next earth change uptick period is supposed to begin. The 5 new volcanic eruption events, you can see that Russia is in the news, and we had another eruption at Fox Island, at the Fox Islands location. This is the terminal end of that northern wave. So as you get that reverberation, each time that wave reverberates back to Indonesia and pushes and gains momentum towards the termination end, that's whenever it reaches the end, then you get this pressure relief mechanism. It's not relieving pressure from the transition zone that's way down 410 to 660 kilometers in the earth. But whenever those buoyancy barriers are tested by all that pressure, then it causes that lifting. If there's a horn formation right there, it pushes that magma that's above it. And that causes pressurization of the magma. It's trying to move, it's looking for a pressure relief, and it finds it in a volcano, a nearby volcano that's right here. This is more evidence that our understanding of the magma plume formations and the buoyancy barriers, the corridors that are created, are accurate. And those of you following the research that have been following this closely are going to wonder why there's nothing going on in Peru, nothing in Central America, nothing on the Argentine-Chile border like there has been. And the reason for that is, let's look at Earthquake 3D for a second over here and show you the answer for that. Why do we have so much activity over there? We have this singular activity. We're getting aftershocks now. Didn't have the foreshocks, but we're having the aftershocks, but that's normal. And here's the deal. At this point in the lull period, which began 5 weeks ago, has to do with distance. This is the origination zone. This is where everything starts. The new uptick period starts. You can just watch this area. I'm going to put the depth of these earthquakes on. I haven't looked at that. Okay, this is definitely, this activity here is inside the buoyancy barrier of this plume formation that's coming across here. That adds energy to it. Even during the lull period, this happens. Okay, the reason that you seeing these volcanic eruptions along this area, this is the terminal end up here in Alaska, and this pressure is reverberating back and forth within this corridor. When it first begins, 5 weeks ago, whenever we first enter the lull, this wave reverberates back and with high intensity. The most intensity is just when they're at the peak, and then the decompression starts because Earth's core starts cooling. But the distance between this origination zone and Alaska is not very far. This is the termination area, and it appears to be because of what's going on here in Cascadia, which is nothing. This is the dead zone in between. Not a lot of movement there. This area is becoming more active. You see this, what are the magnitudes on those earthquake events? These 4.3s that are kicking off over here. Then that activity off the coast of Oregon is going to be related to the pressurization that Mary Greeley is talking about that's going on in the U.S. West Coast over here, and the magma trying to find pressure relief in the offshore volcanoes. There's a line of lava tubes that run out here, and they are partially blocked, or they're completely blocked from the last time they were utilized when Earth core got this hot. As the pressure builds up on this side, the pressure is trying to find that relief on the offshore volcanoes, but it can't because these plugs are in the way. The pressure builds up until the plugs break. When the plugs break, you get these earthquakes. So you see them starting on shore, then they get offshore, and they're making their way to the volcanoes, and then you see reports of outgassing. Mentioned that last week. Alhero did that 2011 and 12. Southern Japan was next. This is the area I've been expecting that we're going to see the outgassing here. That's going to cause mass animal deaths, not for the same reasons that have to do with the shifting magnetic North Pole. That's throwing the migrating animals off course at key times. That's generally after we're outside orbit position. We're at that 90-degree angle. Then something strange happens as the magnetic portal connections switch from the opposite sides of our planet to the same side. Does something particularly in this northern hemisphere environment up here. So the migrating animals that think they're migrating north up here towards the Alaskan waters, the bending magnetic lines cause them to travel straight into the coast and get caught in coves until piles and piles of fish that you can walk on breathe up all the oxygen and they die out here. That's a different kind of mass animal death. Mass animal deaths that will be caused here are going to be caused by the poisons that are related to the outgassing. With filling those, just imagine what's coming out: sulfur and ammonia and all kinds of bad things that fish are going to be sensitive to. So the lack of activity along this side has to do with the distance. The origination zone, look how far it is, all the way over here to the terminal end now in Mexico. So this wave has a longer corridor for the pressures to equalize than this northern wave that is shorter. Eventually, at the end nearing the end of the Earth change uptick period, this corridor has been created by the buoyancy barriers itself. So as the pressure builds up and the pressure is moving through, it's contained, like in a garden hose. These buoyancy barriers are creating directionality for the magma plume formation. Same thing around the north. This magma plume formation is stopped right here, just like it has in Mexico. But you should realize that these terminal ends are not far apart now. In previous orbit cycles, the terminal end of this magma plume formation was down here in Kamchatka and down along South America. That's no longer true. We've been watching the new volcanic eruptions popping off further and further north, heading this way. Same thing happening over here. In my view, if it wasn't for what's going on here in Cascadia blocking this activity, then at least the activity's not showing up here yet. What's going on underneath hasn't pushed hard enough from underneath to cause the movement of these locked plates. That hasn't happened yet. Doesn't mean the magma plume formation isn't already pushed under Cascadia. It likely already has. And because it's going to be given directionality right along pushing towards this southern magma wave terminal end that's now in Mexico. No chance of this coming and meeting together during the lull period. It's not going to happen because we have decompression happening all through this system. It's just reverberating the waves that were built up, the energy that was built up from the last Earth change uptick period. So these are the waves that are still sloshing in the pool. They're just sloshing within those buoyancy barrier corridors. Less over here again because it's a longer corridor. It wasn't blocked by a Cascadia type formation moving this way. Eventually this spells doom for where you're looking at right here. And whenever you, and even the high 5 magnitude earthquakes, look at this side of the world right here. This Baja California quake swarm area has gushed wide open now. And look at that stack of flags right there. This has happened over the last, that's tall stack of flags right there, has only happened in the last few days. Right here. If there were 4 to 6 magnitude earthquakes events, now I see a 4 there, I see a 5.7. There's almost some 4s in here, but they're still of the smaller variety. If these were of the 4.3 to 5.7, all of these, then I'll be making a special report and issuing an alert for this area. They're not the size yet. For example, we saw this same formation at Fukushima, at Guerrero, and Chile. 3 consecutive near-side alignment quake events. This formation right here. They were they were the 4 to 6 magnitude variety, though. But this right here could be pointing towards, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it could be pointing towards something. And it could have something to do with the pressure as it's reverberating back and forth. In other words, the magma plume formations in these corridors is having more and more of effect on what's going on here, even through the lull period. And with that in mind, we're going to be watching this area very, very carefully when the uptick period starts after the middle of February. Going into March and April, what we're seeing now could be precursor events for what's coming then. Okay, that's pretty much what I want to share with you on that part of it. That's the explanation that you just got. Now here's the troubling part right here. And there's a lot of questions coming up with this. I'm going to try to give a good explanation here so there's fewer questions on this topic. And it's not that this model has become the primary model. It's still only a 10% model. The binary star magnetic repulsion model is still in effect. We just have to see how much Jupiter is playing a role with that. The primary modeling says May the 2nd we have another near-side alignment quake event. That's what you see at TerraLow3.com, right there in bold letters in the chart that's there. That's what we're going with. With that being true, we have a 2017 Earth orbit cycle. We have a complete cycle, plenty of time to prepare. This is the reason that we have to step up our efforts for right now, right here. The 12-degree delay in this pole migration pattern ties directly to the 188-day cycle. That says it in a nutshell right there. If you know what the 188-day cycle means. What the 188-day cycle is a series of earthquakes that have happened since 2004, including 9.3 Sumatra. Let me just stop here for a second and pull up my website. Poof, that was fast. Okay. This is the website. It's actually owned and operated by a key member that stood up at the very beginning, part of Terrell's research group back in 2011, 2012. Just want to get that straight. So here's the chart that we're talking about. You can see right here, this is the next event that's predicted. You notice these lines are close together. They've had perfect symmetry. You see the angle on these? You see the angle on these? That's a 12-degree angle. A 12-degree angle. That's a 12-degree angle. Come on, stay up there. That's a 12-degree angle. You see why there's some concern for a guy that does pattern recognition stuff? And this is a warning. And Sandy sent a video from another minister like me that has a similar Project Black Star ministry too. And he brought up this chart and pointed out the 12-day differential. There was not enough correlation to the 180-day cycle. I don't know if he even knows what that means. But there was some good information there. If I click down here, just for a second here, this has to do with I was about to talk with you about that. Did an interview on Monday. And here's Sandy right here. This fella right here. His name is in here somewhere. End Times. Oh, the End Times Preacher. That's what he is. This is not the End Times. Those prophecies from Scripture about what happens when the black star comes on the next cycle. Paul is the only one that sees this thing coming, and he says that it comes like a thief in the night because the prophets couldn't see it. The prophets see the end of the age very clearly. Jesus Christ describes it. The sun doesn't give forth its light. The moon doesn't give forth its light. The sun turns black. Signs in the stars because they're going the wrong way. Because the earth is tipping over. At the end of the age, tsunamis, events on the earth are happening that cause men to faint from sheer fear of what's happening. That happens during a fall time crossing event. But anyway, I wanted to point that out to you down here. And he was keen. Just go ahead and click on his video. He's pointing out this 12-day differential. This is a big concern for me, the symmetry. It picked up this perfect symmetry that you see here. It picked it up down here at the bottom of the chart. It's racing ahead of itself down here. This is the side that we are when we're between the two stars at our near side alignment quake event. Then when we're going towards the 90-degree angle position, everything picked up perfect symmetry coming around for the last 2013, 14, 15, and 16. That's what each of these lines are. All right. So this is a change in the Chandler wobble that now has its own number of days. There's not enough talk about it. And what this means is that the May 7th prediction I made for last year was according to this model, was correct. And it happened early because of Jupiter. If that's true, Jupiter could cause another near-side alignment quake event. And we could still see a May 20th, 2017 black star Earth crossing event, geological pole shift, according to this modeling right here. Because according to this, May the 7th, the old prediction date that was posted on my website was right. And last year, it in red pointed out May 20th, 2017 as the date. It was because of that slowdown, that near-side alignment quake event, that forced me to reformulate the hypothesis and to rework the modeling to accurately show what's actually in the evidence. And so there's a possible conflict in the modeling, and this 5% model had jumped to 10%, which is why I'm talking about it more and more. If you remember in recent, not recent, but I'd skip pretty much by this. We didn't have enough data to be able to recognize the patterns yet. Now we do. And this model is gaining more traction with me. And the survival groups, your local survival group leaders, should be more mindful about what's going on with this and watching the earth changes very, very carefully through the coming earth change uptick period. Let me put it that way. So everybody has to make up their own mind about how they're going to play their war games or stay at home this year for May. As we know the year this is going to happen. It's going to be May, and it's going to be right around May the 20th. We know the year, and we know just about the day. We don't know, we know the month, and we know just about the day. But we don't know the year. Now, I know that sounds strange, but we have enough data to have enough models that there's conflicts, which is much better than following one that's wrong. But if you're catching my drift, then I'm having some concerns as your analyst in the data that I'm seeing here. Okay, I want to read through this a little bit. A little bit about the survival group activity, and before that, then here's the link to the interview, and that is featured down there below. Really good interview, and Scott's a really smart guy. He has a lot of things figured out, like the galactic super wave or whatever that was coming in. They're going to detect it when it gets here. There is no predictive mechanism for something like that. If you go back 2011 and 12, they were predicting that Betelgeuse was going to explode, that we were going to get signs of that. They will know when it happens. There's no way of knowing that that's going until that happens. We are much too far away. Light travels too slowly compared to the distance for us to know before the light gets here. So that's just the way it is, and Scott jumped right on that right away and figured that part out. It's love doing first interviews with people that are not so familiar. Scott was more familiar than most, and he had really good questions, really good interview. So this is going to be one you're going to want to share. There's a permanent link down in the radio section. Now, the Ozark Survival Group activities, and particularly the land acquisition phase of the ARC mission project, have slowed over the holidays. That's normal. That's what we should expect. And that gives the committee members time to decompress, recharge the batteries, because there is work ahead that needs to be done. And I did make multiple submissions for their consideration. That's just sitting on the table right now. That's the way it's supposed to be. And so that activity will pick up after the first of the year, whenever Tom can make the rest of his phone interviews and find out his potential of what's going on. So there's remember, we just have 125 registered members. I know there's more members of that than that, because there's multiple families. I know one member that's brought 14 families, and so that's one registered member that's representing maybe more than 100 people, and maybe 200 people whenever they start bringing their friends and things like that. But this is the number of registered members that we have, and going through the process and hearing the concerns of the committee and other sources. Remember that my relationship is with every subscriber, and all of you are encouraged to write me whenever you have concern, no matter if you're a committee member or a group leader or a member of the group or just a subscriber that is not even participating in the survival group program. Everybody's got a direct relationship with me, that you send me questions and my duty is to answer them and send that information back. And I always want to include that in the weekly newsletters to help other people with the same questions. If you do not want your information shared, which personal information is never shared deliberately, then put whatever you're writing inside of brackets. Bracket it, and it will never go in the newsletter. Everything else is fair game. This is not a secret operation here. This is about trying to wake people up and showing them the need to prepare. I'm killing two birds with one stone when writing commentary for you and answering questions for others and putting it in the newsletter. This is one stone killing a lot of birds for me, and knowing that you will allow me to put that in the newsletter is going to get you a more comprehensive answer. Because if you're going, no, keep this between us, how much time is there to answer 100 emails today and to do all the other activities that needs to be done and make this reply? So there's a little clock inside of me, measuring stick for my activities throughout the day of where my time needs to be spent to help the most people achieve what they're trying to do, whether it's a survival group, whether it's somebody preparing, or whatever it is. Every single subscriber in every group, survival group, is important, whether they're in Malaysia, they're in Australia, or New Zealand, or Canada, or wherever they are. This entire group, every subscriber, everybody is of equal importance. You have to kind of realize that, and it'll help you to understand. I apologize for being a little slow here in making my replies. I know that one particular member thought I was lost or something, but having to travel to Orlando during this week for some doctor visits and things, it caused me to get behind and just take one day off on this project right here, and you'll have 200 emails to answer in one day. And so I'm catching up. I'm doing my best, and please be patient with me through this period. So what it looked like to me was listening to the concerns of people in the survival group, not just the leaders but members. Then my vision for the Ozarks program, the ARC mission program, was just too big for too few members. Too much stress was being put on me and on group leaders, causing friction, problems, and there was a point when that realization finally dawned on me that, hey, there's no way I can personally go and run the field operation phase and do this work. There's not enough of me to be able to do that, and if I explode, what's that going to do for the group? So messages coming from members to preserve my health and things like that. Just went through this scare with the walking pneumonia. Do not want to get myself all torn up again where I become ineffective. So a switching of the gears had to take place, and it caused some problems because some of my statements were misinterpreted, and a little miscommunication, or sometimes even one little statement that I make during one of these reports, it sets off fires that have to be put out, and then that takes time. So this is difficult. Putting this type of operation together and getting all the oars in the water going the same direction is extremely difficult. 2011 and 12 was a great experience for me. The group broke apart. The investors, after meeting them all personally, millionaires, decided to go with a smaller group. The problem is a smaller group will not survive. Mad Mex comes, you do not have a strong enough military contingent, then you're gathering all your materials for somebody else. And that's just a fact. We have to have a large enough group to have the strong military contingent to defend us, the strong doctor contingent to keep us well and to keep us fit. Those things work together. Robert and Dr. Laura's committees must work together in the fitness program to maintain high morale. So this is a very difficult job. You have to realize that. And for me personally to get too heavily involved in the field operation phase, which was going to happen with that 900-acre deal, the timber operation and things, because I know the locals, I was the only person that could do it, then that would have sacrificed my ability to bring new members to the group and make us stronger. So that was partly my oversight, and trying to correct that caused some confusion that the entire land acquisition phase was being changed, that we were looking in a different direction. Things, that's not the case at all. The leasing option, there's a little article down here about that, is a little activity that personally I felt would help the ARC mission board and particularly the financial committee members to work together to sell this idea to a group of entrepreneurs that bought a different cavern than we are looking at, because we want the feedback. We want to know if this has potential to be the ARC mission global program, because if we can get this cavern owner, we can get other cavern owners. That's my goal, is to get a lot of cavern owners in this program. People have the option to go to the ARC mission website, click a button, and reserve space inside of an underground facility near them. So it's not that the ARC mission, it's not that the Ozark Survival Group program is any different than it was. I wish there was some big investor that came along that helped us to do this 900-acre deal, because that, in my view, is the best chance for us to have a big footprint to help the ARC mission image with the locals and with a global survival group movement that's going on, particularly here in the United States. The doom boom is on. Some people don't like hearing that phrase, but it's true. Google it. The doom boom is on. So we are doing our project at the right time in history to attract lots and lots and lots of people that you would never think would ever have anything to do with something like this, because they're looking at the collapse of the dollar. They're looking at all these other reasons. World War III. They're looking at the elite releasing the contagion. There's just lots of reasons that people want to join a survival group community like we are looking at building here, if we have enough cycles in us, to be able to do that. So it's not only a difficult task, but we're trying to manage resources with a small group and do big things, because once we begin doing these things, my ability to go out and be the spokesman for the ARC mission and for the survival group will increase and bring more people in, more investors, more resources, more. It's getting over this hump right here that's difficult, right? So there's a little bit of confusion here, and it was magnified by going through the holidays and people not wanting to be contacted, which is perfectly the way that it's supposed to be and healthy. So I have to admit to having a little bit of frustration over that, and the pressure was getting to me, and I made some statements to senior members that it should not have been made. I was absolutely wrong, and that would, kind of came out of emotion. And generally, people that know me will tell you I'm very logical, a little bit eccentric kind of guy, real smart and all that. Every now and then, particularly with emotion, then personally that I have challenges. Let's just put it that way. And you should have seen me when I was 20, extremely aggressive. Good football player, knocked down everybody on the field, but still have a tinge of that in me, which is a good tool whenever it's needed, but it's also an Achilles heel for me as a group leader. And I want to apologize to anybody that I may have ruffled feathers with moving through this period. Feeling taking a break through this period, even though there's a lot of emails and everything to do, has still helped me, and I'm going to be in more stable in my equilibrium for doing the research, and to run things is benefiting from this break that we're taking right now. The looks like this is going to be a little bit longer of a report. Project supporters for this week include Kenneth, Lewis, Tom, Michael, Tony, Alexis, Dwayne, James, Ronald, John, Chris, Susan, Edward, Michelle, Edward, Monique, that's a pretty name, Dennis, Linford, Glenn, Dave, Melinda, Jerry, Jamie, Peggy, Nathan, Mary, George, Denise. Denise probably got her threat assessment information and her survival group connection faster than anybody has ever done it. It was less than an hour. She was all connected up. Highly motivated, and glad to see her and her family joining the Ozarks program. Remember, you guys can do that. Go to TerraLoad3.com, click on the button, become a subscriber. It's only $25 per year, and we'll get you in the program. Then Michael, Perry, Dwayne, Robin, Terry, and John subscribed just a few minutes ago. Just got him in here. Then Barbara and Don, there are Barbara, Don, and Peggy. Let me see here. Barbara, Don, and Melvin renewed their subscriptions for previous years, with Douglas making a good donation to the research. Thank you, Douglas. That's one donation in 2 weeks. I appreciate your support very, very much. Remember that we're transitioning from 2016 to 17. That is a major undertaking for me. Everybody that is a subscriber, and this year we've added a lot of subscribers. Everybody gets a new notification email, a new 2017 Dropbox folder link, connecting you to all the newsletters for 2017 and all the information. It's a big transition for me, so it's going to be just a little bit slow sometimes. If your email sent to me says threat assessment or survival group, then it is answered right away. This is top priority. Any notifications come in, PayPal notifications, new subscribers, those things are answered right away. I've got an alert. My window's open. That's why some of you, if I'm sitting here at my computer, you get it almost instantly. Then the article stuff, you might not get an answer from me on that until it comes out in the newsletter on the next Thursday, if that has to be all done on Thursday. Okay, so remember, the first 2 and maybe even 3 weeks this year, then the notifications go out. The first 4 newsletters for 2017 are uploaded to the 2016 Dropbox folder, so just keep using that 2016 Dropbox folder until you get your notification email. And then we'll all make this transition smoothly. I'll be happy to make the notification that that project is done. It's time consuming, very tedious, and I'm sure that everything will run smooth. Last year, my Hotmail account was shut down did not have a backup email and had to switch over to this Gmail, it was a catastrophe. What happened last year almost sent me to the hospital. So hopefully this year, this transition is going to be smooth. And let's see, is there anything else up here that we need to talk about? Because this is the longest update so far. The Arctic continent is splitting in half. Yes, it is. That's going to have to do with the magma plume activity that's going on down there. There's reverberating waves. They have resonance, frequency, harmonics, and stuff happens. You know, you can even take a little bitty apparatus to go back and forth and back and forth. Have you seen that? And it can make the wave that you can create just by this little can shake a bridge. It can shake a bridge apart if it's done using the right frequencies, the right movement. So that's part of what's going on down there, and it's just another symptom that the black star is coming when you see strange stuff like that. So I'll just give you a little skim here. Black star vector sent in by Karen, and this is sent in by Anonymous, and he had an opportunity. Didn't want me to put this in the newsletter, but this is black star information. This is going to help people right here. This is perfect. The kind of stuff that helps people to wake up. You're asking questions and you get the answer. The part that will remain between us is the part to do with the financial land acquisition, anything that has to do with like that. If discussions are between a potential investor or whatever and me, that stuff all stays confidential. That is under Tom's area of operation. That's going to go to Tom and to Rosemary. That's their deal, but of course I need to know about it. I mean, if I'm giving orientation to a new investor and ship him in that direction, then obviously I've got to make some inquiries and find out. And so some of that type of stuff appeared in this email, but all that stuff's deleted, and even the name. If you don't want your name in here, no problem. But the information that's being shared sure is helpful to the new people. We can, if I can share that in the newsletter. Pole migration in May 2017. This is another article. It's going to help people with questions about that. The lease option, you got questions about what the heck is that? Why is he doing this different project? No, this is the same project. It's just a different step. And it's geared to making this a global effort and to make our board members more efficient at working together. So it's an exercise. And if we fail with that, for any reason, then we have the information to know how to make a better presentation to the next cavern owner. That's the premise behind that, and it's very helpful if we'll just do it. But remember, all of my submissions to the land acquisition committee are recommendations. There are no directives, not to Chris or to Dr. Laura or to Robert about anything. This is all recommendations from my experience of doing this before. Take it or don't take it. The authority sits with the committee to make the decisions for the group, right? You can 100% totally disagree with what I'm saying and do the opposite, and that's all good. You've got the authority. That was one of my final statements in the to the senior members of the financial committee. You guys have a lot of authority. Use it and help the group with it. You don't need my approval to do anything. Nothing. You guys have got all the authority, and it's your decision. Take all the advice from the best places possible and make the darn decision for the group. That's your job. This is my job. You can't do my job, and I darn sure can't do your job. All that financial stuff, that is an Achilles heel for me. That's why God put you guys over there to do that. So I wanted to try to make that clear. And this is some of Jason's stuff right here. He will razzle-dazzle you and show you what's going on in space, what's going on in a molecule, and show you the earth changes and stuff like that. Excellent, excellent stuff right there. And David always does a good job of keeping up with the earth changes and sending that information in. This is a really good newsletter. This is almost as good as volume 42. That is, might have been the best one for the year. And the volume 28 with the magma plume activity, that might be another really good one too that you're going to want to share with the, other people. So it's not 100 pages, but there's a lot of concentrated content in here, and highly recommend this down here. Clint is another really good, gifted man. He has books in the Dropbox folder for you. One is on cancer, one's the survival book, and we're updating that. He's doing the update. I apologize, Clint, I haven't had time to do that. And I want to apologize too because the Mystery Explained, that book is very near completion. Just have not had time to be able to finalize that. And then Michelle is going through the book, and like David and a lot of others, and she's seeing the patterns. So making progress. Very, very happy. Hope you'll keep updating me. When you send your questions, we can open up a Bible section in here, and then your questions and my answers. Really love that stuff. But the basic of survival, the bug out bag, this is excellent information right here on what's in there. And in my view, then you have multiple of these. You have a little baby small version with little fish hooks and a little bit of line and this that you carry in your pocket, and then you have the bug out bag here on your back, and then you got your gigantic bug out bag carry in your truck, right? So I mean, if you get separated from your other resources, you want to at least have the little guy in your pocket so that you can survive in the cold of the night out there alone. So but I'm still on the wake 'em up stage more than the survival stage, and participating in the survival group activities. But that's the way it's going to be until maybe until we're all in the Ozarks still doing this, waking people up to make us stronger. Because the strong group is the way we must go, so we have the components for our own security, right? So if we lose sight of that, then we're going to have a failure of the operation. So that's my job, and I appreciate the group leaders that have stood up to shoulder the responsibility for the group. And that's this update is not going to go an hour, but this is the new link, Nibiru News with Scott. It's going to be a permanent link there, and I'm going to upload this video, and I will see you guys over at Revolution Radio if you show up in the chat room at freedomslips.com, or I'll see you on the next Black Star News Update or Black Star Update Report. Thanks again. Get more information at Terralo3.com in the Project Black Star section. Become a subscriber, request your threat assessment report, and to be connected with survival groups. And we'll expedite that just like we did for a lot of members this week. Thanks again, and I appreciate you guys' support very, very much.